I'm Josh Light with PoliticIt.com here in New York City with Colia Clark,
Yes.
who's with the Green Party. She's running for Senate. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. And how are you? You've come such a distance. And thank you. Welcome to New York. And glad to have you and glad to be here with you.
Well, we appreciate that. So tell us big differences between you and your competitors in this race.
Well, I have two major competitors. Senator to be, Senator candidate as I am, long on the Republican ticket, and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. So I really have one competitor, and that is Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. Gillibrand has had a wonderful record on working with farmers. We'll talk a little bit about that as we get into it, but she has a powerful record on working with United States veterans. She has fought for the maintenance of food stamp program. SNAP, as it's called these days. It was food stamps in the past, now it's SNAP, SNAP. So she's fought for the maintenance of that. And in doing so, I'm sure that contributes to after-school programs and whatever. But I am very clear that Senator Gillibrand is a politician. And when we look at what she says about veterans, we note that she talks about redeployment, not ending wars. And we live in an hour when we must bring all the troops home, beginning with those in Germany 67 years ago, those in Japan 67 years ago. I was 5 years old 67 years ago. Those in Korea 59 years ago. There's still bases based there. We need them home. And if those nations are not prepared to take care of themselves after all these years, at the expense of taxpayer dollars, then we must say sorry. You have to find another way of doing it. We need our resources home, and more importantly, we need our troops home. But the resources for those first three bases are just resources that America has been putting out for far too long. And then in terms of Iraq, our major illegal war, we need our troops home immediately, and those out of Afghanistan, those who are now penetrating Syria, under the cover of darkness, and those who are all over Africa, 28 bases under the cover of darkness in the pretense of things like genocide. The Army of God, which is about 500 people out in the jungles of Uganda, when really it's about oil. It's about the precious resources, the platinum of Somalia and other issues. We need them home. But important, because when you go to talking about the military piece, Senator Gillibrand has done work and it's got popularity around it, but we have 1.5 million veterans that are lined up at the VA hospitals trying to get in. We have a good ninth of the homeless population, and it's growing in the United States, of veterans. So I am interested in really talking reality, that we must talk truthfully about, one, cutting the military by 40%, but maintaining and increasing the budget for the Veterans Administration. That means our hospitals that really are equipped to serve veterans. That means that we are talking about psychiatrists. Some of these hospitals have one psychiatrist or no psychiatrist. Psychiatrists to treat all of these ills that we have created in these illegal wars declared by presidents and not by our Congress. The first three wars, World War I and World War II, the war that included Japan and Korea, are wars declared by the Congress. We can justify the expenditures here. Not for 67 years afterwards, but at least we can justify the expenditure. But not for any of our last wars. They are unnecessary wars, and they are wars that injure the American people. We are dripping in blood from top to bottom. So to talk about redeploying our troops, to where, I asked the senator, to where? We've had enough. And then Senator Gillibrand and I and the Farm Bill, where she has gone forward, and you won't believe this. I mean, some of the stuff that some of these senators do, like Senator Schumer, who participated in helping to develop the deregulation of Glass-Steagall, to destroy Glass-Steagall and setting this wild investors market with no regulations, with banks running over all of us. You know, some of the stuff we don't do. And in the case of Senator Gillibrand, when she talks about the Farm Bill, she's good on SNAPs, S-N-A-P-S. But when you look at the rest of the Farm Bill, our senator is down on the side of those folk who are big business. She's down on the side of talking about fracking. Fracking's all right. when we know in New York that we are faced with the same issues as Pennsylvania, where thousands of people are suffering from asthma, thousands are suffering from various forms of cancer directly related to fracking. For example, I was at a fracking conference at St. John, the Church of St. John's Divine, this past Saturday, listening to the witnesses from upstate talk about all of this rock and dust that's constantly in the air around them, the noise that seems to be eternal, that's destroying the environment and their health issues. It's destroying the water because to frack, you're taking the acid and you are taking this powerful engines and you're pushing it down through the shell of the earth. Pushing up what? Pushing up the oil, but you're also poisoning the waters. And we can't get around that. We can't get around that issue. So, yes, Senator Gillibrand is horrible when we talk about the farm issue. Yes, we can talk about big business and farmers. Of the $100 billion that was proposed to be spent across the next 5 years on the farm economy in our country, we're talking about subsidies now, $100 billion in subsidies. Farmers receive about 75% of their income in subsidies, and we rush and give that money because we know we need food, and we do. We don't need the Monsanto food that Senator Gillibrand is pushing, but we do need food. And so we protect our farmers as best we can. We had not realized that most of that income goes to corporate farmers and large farms, so that the average farmer, that's the everyday farmer, is struggling and forced to have to lease their land to oil companies which come in to frack. Some way of trying to provide income for their families, to sustain their families. But we also must be honest, if you looked at the full income of farmers and you averaged it out, you would have $135,000 per farm family. But that would be a lie because small farmers and those middle family farmers don't have access to their share of those funds. So I'm against Gillibrand on that. I'm against Gillibrand on the question of food, the most serious question. We have poll after poll that said that 92% of the American people were against genetically modified organisms in their foods. There was a bill that came to the Congress June the 23rd, and our distinguished Senator Gillibrand and our most distinguished Senator Chuck Schumer both voted no to labeling of foods. One, that's a spit in the face of the people who said we want our foods labeled. We want to know what we're eating, and that is a travesty for our health. For our health, we don't put the health at risk on. Well, maybe they don't. When we know that saccharin and other genetically modified organisms have caused cancer, have caused all kind of health issues. So why take the risk with the baby formula? Why take the risk with the food on the table? I would be terribly distressed if the food on my table went to quack, quack. You know what I mean? When I put it on my plate. We want to know what's in our food. And then to the most tragic thing of all, and I don't believe it happened. I come out of an African and an indigenous family. I don't own the other side because they were products of rape in the enslavement era. But my Mayan culture, my indigenous culture of the southern United States, and my African culture are all environmental cultures. We respect the environment. My mother would not even allow us to break a small limb from a tree unless we were prepared to plant 5 more trees. And I don't know why we weren't, but damn if we were planning to plant 5 more trees. So the respect for water that it had, water takes its course, the respect for land and the treatment of land, and especially the respect for animal life. I grew up knowing that there was a great spirit somewhere, and in my father's case, a great God somewhere, that developed this land and developed this earth and everything on it, including the animals, and that I had no right, no human right under the sun, no earthly right under the sun to violate even a rock. So my African ancestors would sing, "Run to the rock to hide my face." Rock cried out, "No hiding place." Dodge the no hiding place down there. Rock cried, "I'm burning too. I want to go to heaven just like you." So when you tell me that a senator of the United States can hook up with the Department of Agriculture and invade the most prestigious bird sanctuary on the East Coast, and that is the Jamaica Bay Sanctuary. for birds. Move in there in the name of geese affecting aviation. Collect 751 innocent Canadian geese. Feed them the most gruesome poison, and like an acid that eats away at your system. It grinds it, and you watch them die a horrendous death. She's a geese assassin. And I don't mind saying that Senator Gillibrand is a geese assassin. But it raised questions for me about her ability on food issue, her ability on animal issues, to sit in that Congress, her ability on the farm bill, but she also tried to slip in another little farm bill that got tossed back out. But her ability to make decisions on behalf of the people she represents. We are New York, and I want to say to New York, send her home. Send her home quickly, because we don't know what she might do next if she's jumping on God's innocent animals. And, you know, geese got a right to fly. And if there are aviation issues, we need to talk to our scientists and those who developed and lay out the blueprints in the skies, human blueprints, to move them away from where God's birds fly. And we know there'll be an occasional bird that will come in. That's expected. And airline pilots have attested to the occasional bird, not the flock of birds. Now, on the other issues where the senator and I agree, there will continue to be many. She has not taken a strong stand for voting rights. I am pushing for a constitutional right to vote. Why? Because I fought for the constitutional right to. I fought for the right to vote. That project at Selma, where Dr. King lays down his infrastructure in 1965 for his last major campaign, which would be our last, and that is the Civil Rights Movement's last campaign for the right to vote, was founded by the Dallas County Voters League, but when they had a cry, needed help, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee went where nobody else would go. And as a field secretary for that Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, along with my first husband, we went to Alabama to set up the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee's 7 black belt counties struggle for the right to vote. And we fought hard fights. I was beaten pregnant at Birmingham. We were threatened with bomb incidents and invaded by the FBI regularly at Selma. And then, of course, you know about the bloody struggle for the last stage of that battle. Nobody's going to tell me that my work in Mississippi, which began with a field secretary for NACP as his special assistant, Medgar Wiley Evers, and all the brothers that died, and people like me who stood 99 on the Mississippi death list, is going to be told that with what we put in to, 1, get the Civil Rights Act, and 2, to get a Voting Rights Act, will be challenged. And I say the only way we can deal with making sure that the people of the United States, all the people, all classes of people, including those imprisoned, have the right to vote, is that we talk about a constitutional right to vote.
And how's your experience prepared you for the Senate?
Well, that experience working in rural communities, in urban communities, working with women's groups, working with girls' groups, working with the youth centers that included males, working within the state university system as in teaching, as an adjunct, working in private systems. I even worked at Union College, the home of American fraternities, as an adjunct. That experience, plus the experience of, 1, I've been homeless. I know what it's like to be homeless. I have spent most of my life struggling to try to find a nickel or dime to just keep my family going. The struggle of working internationally with around international issues, beginning in the 60s with apartheid, beginning with what we now know as a free Zimbabwe, and hopefully remain in free South Africa, beginning with those issues, but issues around Cuban blockades, around what was happening in Central and South America, and I still work with, international coordinator for the International Commission of Inquiry on Haiti from the United States, and that's a co-experience. I share that with Alan Benjamin out of California, and we also share co-coordinators for the Guadeloupe Haiti tour. We got a major conference coming up here in October. We have folk coming from the head of the unions for the entire nation of Argentina will be here. The heads of unions from Brazil will be here. The heads of union from Guadeloupe will be here. And the heads of union, of course, from Haiti will be here. And I will continue my work to build a new American image.
And what fiscal issues are people concerned about here in New York?
Well, in New York, our physical issues are across the board: housing, education, health, of course, mass unemployment as it is elsewhere, especially youth unemployment. And I plan to address those issues and address them up front and center, along with mass transit, postal workers, and other unions. I plan to stand with them and fight in the Congress by working with state legislators, by working with city council members and township members of various departments and towns, working with schools, working with whatever it takes within the state of New York, whatever entities, and especially working with communities. One project that I can point to that I'm asking and pushing forward, and I'm praying that I can get help from legislative officials and city councilmen and others here in New York City, is to begin to talk about the reorganization of public schools, the salvaging of public education, which was fought for by a Reconstruction Congress, where my congressmen and senators, the first two senators and the black senators in the United States, come from my state, Mississippi, Hiram Revels and Blanche K. Bruce. And they joined with J.R. Lynch and congressmen out of the state of South Carolina and out of Florida. They came together with northern senators and congressmen and struggled for access to education. We had no public education. So it is that Reconstruction Congress that gave us access. And to let access be thrown in the garbage can because my opponent and others have refused to stand forth is unacceptable. So I'm willing to work for access, but I'm also willing to talk about a new curriculum. That we, since the 50s, have been run on a course by big business, combined with poor politicians who did not have our best regard, and a local and state and national, made consumers. So that our education system was emptied of agriculture. It was emptied of home economics. And by the mid-70s, most education systems in the country were emptied even of programs like SHARP, where men did what we call today industrial arts. So you knew how to fix your computer if it went bad. You knew how to fix your bike if it went bad, and especially cars. I used to be impressed with black men in the South. There'd be 1,000 of them up under the car, it seemed to me, always working on these raggedy cars. They tell me they did that in Somalia, too, on the coast, that you see these men under these cars dated back in the 80s, cars dated back to the early 1950s. Well, I grew up with that. I saw it in New York, mostly with Puerto Ricans and people who came from the Latin sector. And you know I'm fighting for 100% immigrant rights, the right to constitutional right to education, with them having 100% rights. But now, when we talk about this program that I'm focusing on, I am saying that every high school in New York must have land out of the urban center, purchased by the state, purchased by state and local government, for the purpose of making sure that we don't raise another generation that cannot feed, clothe, and house themselves. That we have a generation with the skills to be able to select land, skills to be able to cultivate land, but the skills also to build, the skills that can be sold, because I'm talking about a new program that can bring income, revenue, as we build families, farms, and communities together. And that's all of the community, including businesses, especially small businesses. But if you do that, what we will see is that this age in which we have developed these species-lethal weapons and energy, nuclear, water with hydrofracking, coal, right across the board, God gave us a powerful sun that sits in the heavens. And these young people can develop solar panels, plans for the future of solar panels. They can develop solar panels working with farmers, but they can also create a mass workforce of the young and those who are unemployed today, just in solar alone. But then, you know, the whole eco-friendly piece. We can talk about water. New York has it. We got the Niagara Falls. Isn't she powerful? She's a wonderful place to see. But we have other powerful streams. And we have, of course, a source of wind. And always we have available to us in New York wonderful farmland. And on it, if we want to grow eco-friendly vegetables that can be used for oil. For that matter, use the pigs we got for oil. We can do that. But New York must be able to finance itself. And if we reinvent public education in earnest and invent it as it was intended by those Reconstruction Congresses, we will have a nation of people who can feed, clothe, and house themselves. I push forward on that. And immediate funding of that will come from asking Wall Street, which in 2008 was only 43% of the American economy. And today they are 56% of the American economy. After our most distinguished president dared say they were too big to fail. They still claim that they might fail, but in the meanwhile, they have 13% of our public income. I want that returned back to the National Treasury to finance a mass education venture that will create mass employment across the state. And this is just a small outline of what I'm talking about here, because it's much bigger than that. And then finally, for New York, I am saying that we must have mass transit for upstate New York. You go up to upstate New York, and it's impossible to move about without a car. People are having a difficult time sometimes walking as much as 12 miles to catch a bus to get to work because there's no mass transit. And that we must talk about the reclaiming of our infrastructure, our bridges, our roads and highways. That we can do with a mass public workforce. So I'm taking you back to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, not back to Franklin Delano Roosevelt's first plan for the 30s, but to his second plan, the year before he died. Franklin Delano Roosevelt sent to the United States Congress an economic Bill of Rights for a constitutional right to education, a constitutional right to health care, and the right to have an income. He was hoping, as I'm hoping, that it will be from a mass public workforce, working in solar, working with high schools and farmers and families together, working, of course, in mass transit, infrastructure development, and all those things we need. Bring our boys home from and daughters home from overseas, close our bases, and let America begin to try to build a peace. So we'll have something other than the image of a big fat bully that consumes too much, talks too much in the world of humanity, and that we will remain a part of the international leadership, and we can reclaim our southern neighbors who last year debunked us when they walked away from the Organization of American States and made it clear. While I was in Algeria last year, they were in Venezuela, forming a new entity for the Western world with the total explanation that they did not want the participation of either Canada or the United States of America. So we're going to cancel NAFTA and CAFTA, straighten out the IMF or kick it out, so that we can reclaim a relationship with Mexico and Central America, South America, and the Caribbean Sea, where we must ask for forgiveness from Haiti, which is belligerent and under extreme stress, and has been since our invasion in 1915, where we took away all of their gold and gave it to Citibank, and it has not been returned yet. They want Citicorp to give them their gold back. Where we invested in some small roads, but not in the people. But instead we did mass murder. Where we kidnapped their president in 2004 and brought in the United Nations. In fact, 3 months before the UN arrived, we have evidence from WikiLeaks, from WikiLeaks, that the Brazilian soldiers were already on ground in Haiti. So we need to end the lie and say to our president, who has told the world that he's destroyed Haiti's rice production, that we owe Haiti reparations, and we want Bill Clinton back in the United States and out of the role of president of Haiti, technically president, because the UN force called minister actually controls Haiti. I know we spoke with the Brazilian generals and leaders of the force. Brazil leads that force when we were there in 2009 with the International Commission on Inquiry, where we met with everyone around Haiti. Haiti must go free. But for the moment, we must free the people of the United States to be able to feed, clothe, and house themselves, our children to get a full education in the age of consumerism, and where the workforce is concerned, protect our unions. But as we protect our public sector unions especially, we must say that it's time to move to a new economy, one where the worker shares a partnership with the owner. Right now, the worker is what? Taxed, an individual income tax is about 40% of our income. But the businesses we work for not only get grand incentives, but a tax between 20 and 25% of their income. We want our fair share. We want an equitable share. We want the right to the tree of life. Freedom agenda for the 21st century. Clark's running on the freedom agenda. And we must have that economic bill of rights put forward by Roosevelt. We're going to put it from under that heap of rubble of paper and whatever they got it hidden under and set it free so that we can set America free.
And how's your campaign going right now?
Well, my campaign is moving along, toddling slowly, but it's just picking up energy now as we come into October. And hopefully we will be able to come away with a reasonable showing. And if nothing else, I'm going to be number 3 as I was when I ran against Schumer. It has not been fast. It's been slow. It's been very difficult. You know, Green Party candidates, we have 4 key values that represent the Green Party. And it's very difficult for those of us who talk about environment, human justice, and human rights to really build campaign in the U.S. And we've also been stuck with that label of spoiler, as if we are not a party, that we were sidekicks. We were, what's the name of that? Tonto, that was the sidekick to Lone Ranger in the little television series. The Democratic Party thought they were Lone Ranger and we were Tonto. Oh, no, Democratic Party. We are a party. And we will fight for our votes. And we will not be like the Democratic Party and bow down to the Republican Party and allow a coup d'etat, which is what happened with Bush Gore. We won't do that. We're going to continue to stay on the battlefield. The Green Party, I salute them. I salute all their values. It's a great party.
Where can people go to learn more about you?
Well, you can learn more about me, New York and America, by going to Colia, C-O-L-I-A, Clark, C-L-A-R-K, .org. We've been hacked regularly, but we should have most of our stuff back up on the site. And you can call me at 646-657-7207. For those of you who just want to know about me, just go online and look for Colia, C-O-L-I-A, Clark, C-L-A-R-K, or Colia. My first husband was Lafayette, L-A-F-A-Y-E-T-T-E, R-R-S Liddell, L-I-D-D-E-L-L, which is my maiden name. I push you up everywhere, so that's not a problem.
Thank you for meeting with us today, Colia.
It has been precious. I am so proud of all of you, your full team, for coming to New York, for traveling the country. I understand you've had more than 300 interviews. I am very proud to see that the young people are stepping up to the plate, and I hope that America's young will not be straddled with all of the scars and wounds of the old, but will move forward, as Dr. King would say, to the 21st century, where we will open, I'm going to say a human era, he would say a Christian era in the United States.
Thank you.
Thank you.